Hey guys, how's it going? So, I'm back, as you can see, but I don't have a Bardiche. That video had too many problems with it, had too many issues. There was audio issues, there was the weapon itself had issues. So I just decided that I'm not going to release it to you guys. It just doesn't, it doesn't meet a good, high enough standard, in my opinion. So, that's not going to happen. I might try and revisit it in the future for you guys, but right now it's just not happening. So, and I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. I apologize for promising something and then not delivering it. But today, I hope this makes up for it, because I made this pretty darn awesome thing, and I don't mean that as in a I'm really good at making things. I mean that in a holy crap, how did this come out of this? So, this thing in front of me, which you guys can't see because it's behind you, so let me turn this camera around so you can see it. This guy is a Kanabo. It's a Japanese weapon. It's a club carried by samurai. They're demons, also called Oni, whatever you want to call them. They're usually depicted with this. And I made that, so I'll show you guys how to make it. You want to get started? I do. So here's what you're going to need. You're going to need a whole bunch of these carriage bolts here. These are 1/4 by 3/4. They're zinc-plated carriage bolts. I have about 200 of them. Actually, I think I have 200 to be exact. So this is an 8-foot long oak 2x2. You can find this at Menards. It's not cheap, but for the purpose of this build, it's going to be perfect. I went and made 2 markings on this pole. The first one is at 60 inches, which is about 5 feet. Not about, it is 5 feet. And the second one was at 39 inches. I know OCD people will get super annoyed by the fact that it's 39 and not, 40, which is right there. But there is a reason for that. And yes, I would much rather be at 42. Guys, I'm sorry, but you OCD people are just gonna have to, us OCD people are just gonna have to, deal with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut at my 60 inch mark using a chop saw. If you don't have a chop saw, you can easily use a circular saw, and if you don't have either of those, you can cut this using a hand saw. So it looks a little complicated, but now I gotta cut these corners off like I did in that other video. I'm gonna use the table saw with a 45-degree angle blade. And I'm gonna cut all the way down the entire pole. Now I got that all cut out, it looks pretty nice to me. I've marked out where my handle is going to end, and I'm going to sand the handle down so that's nice and round, but I'm going to leave the octagonal shape up top, and you'll see why in a bit. I'm actually going to start off by whittling down using this machete here. It's actually way sharper than you might think, but I'm going to whittle down these corners and get it as round as I can with that, and then I'll go at it with the sandpaper. So, yeah, well, I made a little mistake, guys. I was chopping too hard with that and ended up chopping a huge chunk off. Some of you might sit there and think, how the heck could I do that? But, just a little bit about me, guys, is physics and I don't get along very well. So stuff like this happens to me all the time. Physics is out to get me for some reason. So, garbage like that. Right now I have wood glued it together. I have it clamped down, and now I have to wait for this to dry. Thank you, physics. Thank you a lot. While that's all drying, I'm actually going to start drilling for the carriage bolts. They're hard to see, but I put dots on all the spaces that I'm words and stuff, where I'm going to drill my holes where these are going to sit in. Mine are 1.5 inches apart, so I started 1 inch from the top, and then each 1.5 inches I'm going to have a stud. The drill bit that I'm using is a 732. It's a little bit smaller than the carriage bolts. This is because I want it to be nice and tight, otherwise they'll come falling out as soon as I hit something with it. So I marked out the spots for the second row of carriage bolts. As you can see, they are staggered from the first line. That is because if they were on the same spot on each of the things, the bolts would collide with each other and they just wouldn't fit in the thing. So I have to stagger every other one. Now you just have to tediously repeat that pattern all the way around. Now that took forever, but those are all drilled out. Mine got a little messed up along the way, so the staggering is a little off, but it's not a big deal. It's still going to be a very effective weapon. Now that it's all drilled out, I'm going to add this nice varnish to it to give it a nice mahogany look. It's all dry. I added some electrical tape down to the handle. Now originally I didn't want to wrap it with anything. I wanted to just have the stain there, but I kind of had to because of the crack that happened earlier. But now we have to start the slow and tedious process of screwing in all of these bolts. So I did one row of them, and I've already blistered up my finger from doing that. So I'm going to be a little bit more careful, but I'm going to get the rest of these 7 rows done. Holy cow, that took forever, and I have blisters all over my fingers because of that. But using this little guy here, I manually, by hand, whatever you want to call it, bolted, screwed in, whatever you want to call it, all of these studs in. It took all day. It took forever. And my hand hurts, but I'm so glad that it's done. Look how beautiful that thing is. So a bit of information on this guy. First off, mine ended up being 5 foot tall and 6 pounds. 6 pounds is quite heavy, for a weapon, that is. For a Kanabo, that comes in right about where it's supposed to be. I think it turned out pretty awesome. Some more information about it, some people would argue, why wouldn't you put spikes on it instead of studs? Well, shout out to Zednot Epsilon, also known as Thainthrand. They did an awesome video on a Kanabo against a Viking shield. They were trying to argue against Deadliest Warrior or whatever. But anyway, in the video they talked about stuff like this. And one of the things they pointed out is, first off, the spikes are going to be a lot weaker. They're going to be a lot less effective, because like if you hit somebody with it, the spikes have a much bigger chance of bending or breaking. The studs like this will hit somebody and still apply extra force to it, but not they don't have nearly as big of a chance of breaking. The reason why you'd have studs on it in the first place would be the fact that it has increased pounds per square inch, or PSI, or whatever you want to call it. So when you hit something, all the force is forced onto one little point instead of, across a little section of the wood. It's on one point, 1 or 2 points that hit somebody. So you have a much greater chance of breaking bone with studs on here like this. But back to Thainthrand, another thing that they're talking about is, if this thing is so big, like I said, it's 5 foot long, it's so big and so heavy that if I need to block with it, I'm going to have to choke up on it, I'm going to have to grab where the studs are. And if there were spikes here, I couldn't do that. Which makes this a highly ineffective weapon if it had spikes on it. Now some people might comment saying this is too tall or too heavy or yada yada yada, or too light for that matter. But whatever, it doesn't really matter because I've looked up Kanabos, I've done research on them, and I've found that they are all over the place. There is not a consistent length or width or weight to it. It's honestly whatever the wielder prefers. So I've seen them that are like the size of baseball bats. I've seen them as short as like your forearm or whatever. But I've also seen some that are longer than this. So it's not really different. Oh well, it's different, but it's not. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just got done doing the Z-Knot workout number 1, I believe he called it. The one with the maces, the Indian mace thing. I just did it with my Kanabo though, which works just fine for that. I mean, it's a little lighter. That just means you have to do more reps. But you can use it for more than just, decoration or, in case that one guy tries to break into your house. No, you can use it to work out. Turned out pretty awesome in my opinion. I really like this thing. It's fun to swing around. It's fun to play around with. Speaking of play around with, me and Eli actually did a test video of this, if you guys haven't already seen it by some chance. We'll put a link in the description below for you guys to look at that. It was a lot of fun. We smashed watermelons and stuff in my backyard. Eli actually tried punching one. Anyway, this build was tedious as all get out. It was super tedious, but it was totally worth it. It turned out, I don't know, it turned out pretty darn awesome if I can say so myself. But yeah, I hope you guys liked it. Let us know. Give us any in the description below. Give me Give me suggestions on different ways we could do the studding. But they have to be strong in the wood. They can't, just be. I've seen people use upholstery studs or whatever, and those just pop right off as soon as you hit something with it. But it's got to be something tough, something in the wood, deep in the wood. So if you guys have any ideas like that, let us know. I like the way these carriage bolts look. Just the rounded head on them, I don't know, it just works so well in my opinion. So, but yeah, I'm gonna stop blabbering. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.